Chesapeake's Public Safety Officers of the Year. And we have the recipients of those awards here with us today. They're going to be introduced as part of the ceremony. But again, I hope this is something our club will continue to honor. These are your first responders. These are your people out there putting themselves on the line every day. You know, I sit in an office, and I may be in court, but I don't put my life on the line every day in my job, and these fellows do. And I think they deserve our respect and a great deal of commendation. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to our retired fire chief, and someone who knows a lot about what these gentlemen do, and that's our committee chair, Steve Best.
Thank you very much, President Suan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is certainly an honor and a pleasure for me to have served as chair of this committee for this inaugural event. I certainly think it's extremely important that the Rotary Club, with our motto, service above self, recognize many individuals who come to report for duty every day and provide a blanket of security for each and every one of us as we go about living and working and raising families here in this great city of Chesapeake. And they do it very selflessly. And I'm about to recognize three particular individuals who represent the very first recipients of this brand new award. I certainly want to credit Councilmember Lonnie Craig, who really came up with the original idea of doing this. That idea was expanded. We have a committee consisting of Chip Chappell, myself, Dr. Ella Ward, and Lonnie Craig. And we're all on this committee, and this was a collective effort that you're about to see. One thing I'd like to keep in mind, as I read these service records of these recipients, please remember that they are distinguished in and of themselves. But in addition to that, they actually represent, behind them, a cadre of very dedicated men and women and support systems and people who provide this security 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they do it extremely well. The first recipient we'd like to recognize today is from the fire department, Fire Lieutenant Nestor Mangavet. Nestor, if we could ask you and Chief Elliott to come forward, and President Suan, if you could assist with the presentation. A member of the Chesapeake Fire Department since November the 1st, 1996, Lieutenant Mangavet has consistently demonstrated a lifelong quest for continuing education and servant leadership. In July 2004, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant with responsibilities for the day-to-day operations of a fire ladder company. In addition, having demonstrated a strong work ethic, talent, and aptitude, he was also assigned as the fire chief's administrative assistant, which I can personally attest that he performed extremely well during my tenure. During his tenure, he has acquired specialized training in hazardous materials, arson detection, aerial operations, technical rescue, and many more areas of fire and emergency service operations that has made him a very valuable member of the Chesapeake Fire Department. But more than this, perhaps it's his strong attributes of character and leadership that make him a standout officer in the organization and one worthy of special recognition. Lieutenant Mangavet demonstrates enthusiasm, creativity, and innovation. He constantly strives for continuous improvement of himself and the department in ways that accomplishes department goals and achieves mission. His talents and ability to think quickly and clearly when responding to a fire scene, accident, or injured citizen is always right on target. He consistently demonstrates a very clear understanding of expectations both of himself and those he leads. And he has certainly, I can assure you, earned the trust of his crew, the chief staff, and the entire department. As an administrative assistant, his attitude of helpfulness and analytical abilities, his desire to jump in and provide assistance to other members in a multitude of areas has greatly enhanced the department's administrative and operations staff, and many times has provided the basis for the department to justify its needs and requirements for equipment purchases and personnel. Lieutenant Mangavet epitomizes the very best of the fire service in general and Chesapeake in particular. And for these reasons, Lieutenant Mangavet is awarded the 2012 Chesapeake Rotary Club's Fire Department Public Safety Employee of the Year Award. Lieutenant McIntyre. We're very pleased to recognize this next recipient from our police department. If we could ask Officer Mark W. Cool and Police Chief Kelvin Wright to come forward, please. Since being assigned to the 3rd Precinct in March 2011, Officer Cool has made a tremendous impact on crime reduction in the Deep Creek Crossing Apartments, Owens Village Apartments, Lake Village Apartments, and the surrounding areas. These areas were experiencing an upsurge in weapons, drugs, robberies, assaults, and other criminal offenses as a result of an emerging gang culture. Operation Sniper is a successful program with a primary objective to systematically pick off offenders by identifying the players, their modes of operation, and then eradicating them from the area through criminal prosecution, banning, eviction, and other means. Officer Cool has been the driving force behind this initiative and responsible both directly and indirectly for numerous arrests and convictions under this program. In addition, Officer Cool has performed exceptionally well as demonstrated by a few of the many noteworthy examples. I would like to provide you with a couple of those. Officer Cool came into contact with a juvenile believed to be involved in prostitution, and he initiated an open dialogue about recent crimes in the area. From that conversation, he was able to gather credible information about an armed home invasion and a malicious wounding which occurred several days earlier in the Lake Village apartment complex. He immediately contacted the detective assigned to the case and provided much needed information about the offense. Prior to this, the detective had little or no leads in this case. Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Amy Miller recognized Officer Cool and others for truly going beyond the call of duty in an extensive and complex investigation involving the identification and prosecution of gangs in the Greenbrier section of the city. She wrote, and I paraphrase, "Because of the officer's efforts, knowledge, and attention to detail, we have been able to track and identify many members of the Crestwood Manor Boys, a homegrown organization, have them debriefed and recently charged with criminal offenses. I cannot express how the professional, proactive, and thorough efforts of the officers have greatly assisted in this effort." And finally, an armed robbery occurred at a Shell gas station with 2 suspects seen fleeing the area in a waiting vehicle. Officer Cool was able to communicate a complete vehicle description and tags to responding units. In addition, he provided the name and physical description of the vehicle's registered owner, who he recognized from a previous encounter. As a result, the suspect was immediately linked to the crime, even though they had their faces covered during this robbery. Both the suspects and the vehicle were located due to Officer Cool's attention to detail and his diligence. For his demonstrated skills and abilities and excellence in law enforcement work, Officer Mark W. Cool is awarded the 2012 Chesapeake Rotary Club's Police Department Public Safety Employee of the Year Award. Officer Cool. It now gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize the Chesapeake Sheriff's Department Deputy of the Year, Deputy Miguel A. Lopez. Deputy Lopez, could you please join us along with Under Sheriff Jim O'Sullivan? That was an unintended consequence. member of the Chesapeake Sheriff's Department since February 2006, Deputy Lopez is consistently recognized by his supervisors as a hard-working deputy that performs all duty assignments extremely well with tremendous interpersonal communication skills that have proven an asset when dealing with stressful situations. Because of his knowledge and ability to speak Spanish, Deputy Lopez is often called upon to help translate when dealing with Spanish-speaking offenders. The Sheriff's Department recognized the superior actions of Deputy Lopez that resulted in the arrest of a burglary suspect and a return of personal property from one of his neighbors. Deputy Lopez was off duty. He noticed two suspicious individuals in his neighborhood. He continued to watch them from his home and observed one of them enter and then exit his neighbor's home. He contacted the Virginia Beach Police Department and reported the activity, gathered his badge, his duty weapon, his handcuffed cell phone, and then he began to follow the suspects while relaying information to the police dispatcher. An officer responded, began to question one of the suspects. The suspect fled, and the officer and Deputy Lopez entered into a foot pursuit. They discovered him hiding behind a home, took him into custody at gunpoint. When searched, several items, jewelry and electronics belonging to his neighbor were recovered. What makes Deputy Lopez's actions stand out, according to his supervisor, is that he actually took action. Many citizens would have only made a phone call to the police department. Instead, Deputy Lopez armed himself, knowing that this could become a violent encounter. He provided up-to-the-minute information to dispatch and the responding officer on the suspicious subjects. He then assisted the officer in the foot pursuit and capture of the individual. If it wasn't for his actions, his neighbor would have not recovered her property, and the subjects would have been free to continue to burglarize other neighbors in the neighborhood. Prior to arriving in Chesapeake, I think it's important to note that Deputy Lopez served as an auxiliary police officer in the 61st Precinct in Brooklyn, New York, where his auxiliary police coordinator noted him to be an outstanding officer that was consistently viewed as a very trustworthy and outstanding individual. New York's loss was certainly Chesapeake's gain, and for these reasons, Deputy Miguel A. Lopez is awarded the 2012 Chesapeake Rotary Club Sheriff's Department Public Safety Employee of the Year Award. Deputy. And before I turn the podium back over to President Suan, I'd like for the three recipients to please rise and ask the Chesapeake Rotary Club members to give them a very hearty thank you. Thank you very much.